Alright, so I know that in the last video we talked about Shaddolls and their card effects. In this video I want to talk about Shaddolls and tech choices that you can use with them. I will split this up into two different videos just because it will be extremely long. There's a lot of different cards that can be used with Shaddolls, and mostly because you kind of need the different attributes or other sort of cards that can help trigger your Shaddolls to really get them going. Because if you played a pure Shaddoll deck, it can be kind of slow and very awkward, and you don't really get the full utilization out of your Shaddoll fusions currently. And with that, that is a lot of tech, a lot of different tech ideas over here. And like I said, I have a whole nother one of these set aside for the next video. It's a lot of different ideas. First, we're going to start off with the very top of this, the Magician Pendulums, where this is like a Monster Reborn, this is like a extra damage and a pop, and this is some protection. So they do have some type of weird synergy where they do work with the current Shaddolls. They will not work with the new ones because the 3 new ones that we're getting are not dark spellcasters. So it's just something that you can keep in mind, where it probably will not be used in the future, but it is something that can be done right now. And it kind of extends out to the Pendulum Magician Spell and Trap. I only put the spell up here to be a reminder. Dragodes and Dragonox, the Empowered Warriors. Both of these have some type of weird synergies with Shaddolls, in the fact that Dragodes, if it's destroyed by battle or opponent's card effect, you can search out a spellcaster with 2000 or less attack from your deck and add it to your hand, and Dragonox can special summon a spellcaster or warrior type monster with 2000 or less attack from your graveyard back into face down defense position. So there is some weird synergy there. I don't think it's very good. Dark Grepher, Armageddon Knight, Mathematician, all 3 of these do similar things in the fact that they're helping to ditch stuff to the graveyard to get you started. However, out of the 3 of them, Mathematician is probably the strongest because it can send anything and it doesn't have to be dark. And a lot of times you actually need that in Shaddolls to get you going into other attributes. So kind of want to build on that. You also see the Dotscaper, Glow Up Bulb, and Jet Synchron. All 3 of these are 3 good cards that can help you maintain some type of board presence because they will come back. Jet Synchron being the fact that it's actually a fire that can come back, so you can use it for Grista. Glow Up Bulb being an earth, so you can use it for your Shikanaga or for doing synchro plays, and of course link plays now. Same thing with Jet Synchron. Dotscaper is kind of the same thing as Glow Up Bulb, but the fact that it's not a tuner is a little bit less as important, but it still is maintaining your board presence. So it's something else you can kind of think about, where sometimes you just need that link too for whatever reason, and that can help you get there. Gallus' Starbeast, its Send effect will trigger your Shaddolls, along with these next few cards, which you might be questioning of why there's Guard Dog, Tantan, Valerifawn, Whirlwind Weasel, Momon Carpet, and then you see Rescue Cat. Rescue Cat is a way to turbo out into your Shaddoll Construct Link monster. I don't think this is a very good variant. I think it is fun, but not very good. The Whirlwind Weasel and Guard Dog are both kind of floodgates in their own rights, and that does have some interesting turn 1 types of plays if you can also combine that with your Prediction Princess cards, which of course are actually really neat flip effect type of support, because of the fact that it is a walking Book of Moon or Book of Taiyu that can also special summon a flip effect monster during your end phase. Again, there is some synergy there. It's interesting. You can also get the Shaddoll effects off of whenever you ritual summon out the tarot tray, so whatever you used for the tarot tray you can also just put right back on the board in the end phase. Gigabyte is in here because this was actually a popular tech back in the day during Clown Dolls. Is it something I would play nowadays? Probably not. I think that it would be better to play something like Inari Fire. It is more likely for you to use a fire type monster instead of the water, or Ranryu as the wind, because you're not probably going to go into an Ayatolus or Wendigo. Magical Merchant and Morphing Jar are both in here because they are flip effect monsters that will also activate all of your Shaddoll effect. Brotar is actually in here because it has a really neat interaction in the fact that its discard actually an effect. It's not a cost. So you can actually use it to, say, you 1-for-1 the Brotar and you target itself, you can discard a Shaddoll targeting Brotar to add a Phantasme and then trigger your Shaddoll effect. So there is some weird synergy. I don't think it's ever really going to come up. So I think it's probably just going to be in here as just a aside. And hopefully you'll also think of Koinorma as just an aside because it can special summon almost any of your relevant Shaddolls. You can special it, but you can't use any of their effects that turn because Koinorma is way too fair. Quick Draw Synchron is another one that you can also use. I don't know why you really would, but Stick and Chair, a very famous combo for Shaddolls. I think that Stick Chair is still a very powerful play. I think that is not something to just disregard right offhand. However, I will say that I think that the risk reward is a little too much in the risk category. Phosphero Glacier and Nemesis Warrior. These are both in here because they can both trigger Shaddolls, and the fact that Phosphero Glacier can send a card to the deck to the graveyard, just like our Mathematician, Armageddonite, and Dark Grepher. Probably never going to use that. It's never going to be relevant. Nemesis Warrior, kind of same thing where it will tribute a Shaddoll to use actually special summon out Phosphero Glacier. Never going to use that. It's just a neat interaction that I wanted to toss in there. I hope nobody ever tries that. Please don't. It's a bad idea. Gate Infinity and Gate Zero, because if these two are both scaled, you can pop the both of them to add any fusion or polymerization spell from your deck to your hand. So you can search out your Shaddoll Fusion or El Shaddoll Fusion, Super Polymerization, etc. Apprentice Illusion Magician actually probably falls more under the Pendulum Magician type of support, where it supports dark spellcasters, probably never going to be used again. The Predaplant combo is a similar thing as the Gate Infinity, Gate Zero type of effect, where you're going to be able to search out any of your polymerization or fusion cards from Cobra. I think that this actually has a lot of viability. True King, Agni Mizzud, this goes along with all the other True Kings. However, I think Agni Mizzud is the most likely one to be used because it is fire. Of course, we can't use Lithosagem because it is banned. And Baristos is water. Necros of Valkyris, similar thing to the Agni Mizzud. There was actually a time whenever Necrodolls was a thing. Valkyris can tribute your Shaddolls to draw a card, as well as whenever you ritual summon out the Valkyris, that will also trigger Shaddoll effects. So it was always a weird deck, and I don't think it'll be really worthwhile to do nowadays. But if you have the cards, because Necros are very cheap now, you can give it a shot at your locals. I just would not recommend taking that to a regionals ever. Card Destruction, Dark World Dealings, Drag Down to the Grave, Foolish Burial, all of these are going to be used to activate your Shaddoll effects. That's pretty much all you can say about that. Foolish Burial Goods, you can use that to actually set up your plays or recur back your Shaddoll fusions by sending Shaddoll Core. I don't know. I can see its place. However, you do have Squamata to do the job of both of these cards at once, so you can actually choose which one you want to do. But again, you have the option. Fusion Substitute, this kind of goes out to all of the different polymerization types of cards and their searchers, which you can see down here, King of the Swamp and Moonlight Black Sheep. Of course, these are not comprehensive. That is just a small sampling of all the polymerization cards you can possibly play. Personally, I think Fusion Substitute is probably the most likely one to be played, in the fact that you're most likely going to have it be sent to the graveyard from some other effect. So if you're playing Dangers in it, or if you're playing the Empowered Warrior set, or some other type of way to get this to the graveyard, some other type of discard outlet, you can always use this to recycle your Shaddoll constructs, and I think that is more useful than just having polymerization. Hand Destruction and Into the Void, and this also goes out to Card of Demise as well. All three of the cards will actually trigger your Shaddoll effects. Of course, Hand Destruction being the immediate, Into the Void and Card of Demise being during the end phase, because it does discard your hand or send your hand to the graveyard by a card effect. That is actually going to trigger all your Shaddolls, and because it'll happen after the resolution of these cards of these card effects, you will be able to keep whatever cards you added off of those Shaddoll effects to your hand. Just remember that if you use Card of Demise, you'd better not send a Windy or a Falco. Magicalized Fusion is another card that you can actually use to push for another Winda, or if you just don't have a Shaddoll Fusion, El Shaddoll Fusion, or you don't have the materials or whatever you need, Magicalized Fusion is another way to get that out. You can also use it to do the neat Quintet Magician, because you are going to be filling up your graveyard with a lot of spellcasters with the old school Shaddolls, and then you can just banish all those to summon out Quintet, and Quintet is quite a powerful card that is hard for some decks to get over. Mass Chain Second is another card that actually, not the discard effect, but whenever the card that you target with its effect will actually get the any effects by it being sent to the graveyard. So if you have a Squamata face up on your side of the field, you activate Mass Chain Second, discard whatever you have in hand, targeting that Squamata. Whenever the Mass Chain Second resolves and sends that Shaddoll Squamata to the graveyard, the Squamata will be able to activate its effect on the next chain. Reasoning, same thing. If your opponent calls a level 4 and you reveal a Squamata that's sent to the graveyard, it will get its effect. Multi-roll and Area 0, they both will actually activate Shaddoll effects because they both send as effect. Solar Recharge, same thing, sends as effect. However, not all Lightsworn cards will send as effect, because you must remember that a lot of the Lightsworns actually will mill as a cost to activate. Spellbook of Knowledge is another card that you can use to send a Shaddoll monster and get its effect. Drawing cards is also kind of nice sometimes, so I've heard. Super Polymerization is kind of like an honorary Shaddoll card. Toy Vendor. This was actually a really neat idea that I actually really enjoyed playing, because having the Fluffle Wings and the Fluffle Bear gives you access to your constructs and as well as your Shikanagas, and it also gives you the access to all these draws. At the end of the combo, you're actually going to be given the option of being able to either have another light in your hand as the Fluffle Wings, or another earth in your hand that is the Fluffle Bear. Tuning, it's an effect to send, and you can also search out the Quick Draw Synchron. It's kind of why they're both in here, but I think you'd much rather get that Jet Synchron, just because Jet Synchron is so much better. Necrofusion is another card that is basically just like a trap form of a window, because 9 times out of 10 you're just going to use it to make a window during your opponent's turn and just kind of stall them out a little bit. Dinomyscus, however, I absolutely love this card, because whenever you use it, you're going to trigger all of your Shaddoll effects. It's a lot of fun. I enjoy it a lot. Subterra Secession, not a big fan of this card. It used to be an alright idea to use in Shaddolls, because they were all the same attribute. However, nowadays, with the new cards that we're going to be getting, I think it's going to be absolutely terrible to try and use, and it's not really going to get you anywhere. So I would definitely stay away from this. Extra Foolish Barrel is a way to actually get your Shaddoll Fusion to hand, because you can use it to send Apkallone, the new fusion monster, and then Apkallone will activate. You will add a Shaddoll card or from your deck or graveyard to your hand, and then discard 1 card from your hand. Pay half your life to add a Shaddoll Fusion to your hand. Okay, that's pretty good, but you cannot set spells or traps during the turn you activate this card. That is the one downside to the card. I don't care that you can only activate 1. That's not a big deal. But it's the fact that you cannot set spells or traps during the turn you activate this card. That really does hurt a lot. And I know that we've already talked about all of these right through here, but we also have Ultimate Conductor Tyranno, where Dino Dolls is actually still a very good deck, and I think that Dino Dolls has a lot of potential, especially with the fact that UCT, whenever it activates its effect, its destruction will actually trigger your Shaddolls. Dangers, I kind of mentioned this earlier, they also discard by card effects, so they'll also get all your Shaddoll effects, and it's probably a way to do a more turbo version of everything. And then perhaps the best light targets that you can play for Shaddolls is the Clown engine, with the Damage Jugglers, Trick Clown, and possibly even a Hat Tricker if you really want to. Perform Age engine, the Clown engine is just extremely powerful, and it does give you access to rank 4s if you really want them, while also giving you the maintaining your hand with lights, so you can always be able to go into another construct. I think that is probably the most powerful thing, is that you can do all 3 construct in one turn just because you saw 1 Damage Juggler. Defender of Nephthys, this goes out to all the Nephthys archetype, where they destroy cards in your hand to do stuff. They trigger Shaddolls. Don't please don't try it. The searchers that I talked about, Blazeman, where you can actually use this and search out your fusion substitute. And you also get your fire, whatever. Cherubini also trigger. Calamitous Undo can be used to go into a Winda. Moving on. Gold Driver. Gold Driver can actually be used. Well, it's just all the metal foes in general. They destroy a face-up card, so you can actually destroy a face-up Shaddoll, or say you pendulum out some Shaddolls, then you can destroy them, get some of their effects, and then hopefully do something with all that. I've already talked about Prediction Princess Engine. These all also will destroy Dark Hole, a diagram I kind of mentioned earlier, and of course Zodiac Barrage, one of the most famous destroy cards outside of diagram. All three of these can also trigger Shaddolls. These two will give you a replacement at minimum, and this one is a card. Magical Dimension is another card that works with current Shaddolls because of the fact that you have to control a spellcaster type monster. You can target any one monster you control. It doesn't have to be the spellcaster monster you control, but it can be any one monster you control. Tribute that target, then special summon one spellcaster monster from your hand, then destroy one monster on the field. Subterra Behemoth Fiendus is another card that can actually do some type of support for Shaddolls because it does take 2 flip effect monsters, but it's the fact that it can send actually a flip effect monster from your deck to the graveyard, and if you do special summon one monster from your hand and face down defense position to your zone this card points to, which means that you could theoretically say, I don't know, send a Hound and special summon a Dragon, and then use Hound effect to flip the Dragon. Dragon will then return something, and then Subterra Behemoth Fiendus will also add another flip monster from your deck to the hand. Really neat niche interaction, but honestly not going to do a whole lot because 1, you're going to be playing Hound, and Hound is not very good as we've covered before, and 2, generally speaking, you're going to want to use the Dragon in hand for one of your other fusion summons instead of trying to do some cheeky plays like this. I think it's still added in here because it does make for some interesting plays that you can possibly do. Personally, I'm not a big fan of it. I think it's too restrictive in the fact that it needs to special summon to the zone, one of the zones this card is pointing to. Curious, like I said earlier, it will send by card effect. Cherubini, like I mentioned earlier, is another card that you can use to send a Shaddoll Hedgehog or the Rest Shaddoll Windy, so you can actually use it to also start some of your plays. But I think what is probably the most useful Link 2s are either most likely Cloth-Heap, just because of the fact that it is just 2 monsters with different names. The easiest one to go into out of all of the Link 2s that are going to be useful for your deck, and the fact that if you fusion summon, you special summon back a level 4 or lower monster from your graveyard. And that is extremely powerful, especially in Shaddolls, because you're going to be filling up with level 4 or lower monsters in your graveyard. So this is almost always going to be live as soon as you make it. I think it's definitely probably one of the most useful Link 2s you can make. Currently, though, before this card comes out, is Alistair the Invoker of Madness, because it's also actually relatively easy to make this card as well, because it just takes 2 monsters with different types and attributes. Now, you can't really do that internally in the deck itself unless you're playing some type of other engines, like the Striker engine along with your Shaddolls, because you can actually go into Alistair with just 1 drones, but it does take up 3 extra deck slots, which is a little bit difficult to do. But Alistair the Invoker of Madness is also a very powerful card in the fact that it will also trigger your Shaddoll effects and also search out an invocation or Book of Law. Now, you can use it to add your invocation and make a Mechaba. It always warrants a place on any Shaddoll list, at least in consideration. Time Star Magician, never going to be considered because of the fact that it takes 2 level 4 Magician Pendulum monsters. However, do remember, this can actually search out any Dark Spellcaster type monster from your deck, graveyard, or face up from your extra deck to your hand. So you can actually use this to search out any one of your old school Shaddoll monsters. Is that good? No. Performance Trapeze Magician was also played a lot back in the rank 4 Shaddoll days, the Clown Dolls days, because it was very easy to pop out 2 level 4 spellcaster type monsters. along with the fact that this lets you attack twice on one of your monsters. So you can make a construct that is just going to attack over and use its effect to destroy a special summon monster, and then you're going to attack directly, and then attack with Trapeze Magician to do 53 at least, and then you're going to drop in an El Shaddoll and keep going off. Nyarla, its detach effect will also trigger your Shaddolls. It comes up more in Lunalights than anything else. Dugaris, funny enough, the draw 2 cards, discard 1, trigger Shaddolls, and also it does a Claw Thief thing. It special summons a monster from your graveyard in defense position. I think this has some type of potential, mainly in the Star Seraph variant of Kagutsuchi. Probably never going to see the light of day in Shaddolls, but it does also trigger Shaddoll effects. Beatrice. I mean, it's just like Curious. It sends anything that you really need. And with that, we've gone through the whole first page. I know it's quite a bit of cards to go through. It's 20 minutes of me talking and almost sort of rambling about all these different cards, but hopefully seeing some of these have maybe made you start thinking about some different interactions that Shaddolls can possibly do, and maybe you're actually going to see some of the other tech choices that are going to be tossed into the next video based off of what you see in this. And of course there are different archetypes that I've not covered, and I will, but I think that this is a good starting point. You can kind of see down there here in this bottom row, these are the best options I think for Shaddolls. The Dino Dolls I think are just still probably the most powerful of all of the Shaddoll variants right now. The Clowns are probably still the best. Dangers are good for turbos. Mathematician's still probably your best normal summon, just because it gives you access to whatever you need. Armageddonites, so-so. Glow Up Bulb and Jet Synchron I think are still very niche, but possibly whenever Needle Fiber comes out, we might actually see them being played more in Shaddolls because you do have access to them, and it's not going to be terribly difficult to get them on board or even get them into cycle after making a Needle Fiber. I think these are all really interesting options, and I hope to see what some people have to say about this. Go ahead and leave a comment down below. Leave a like if you liked the video. If you did like it, go ahead and subscribe. I very much appreciate it. I know that I haven't really been posting a lot of things in a very consistent manner. I apologize for that. We've just had a lot of family and life going on, and we have a little bit more time to focus in on the game. But anyways, thanks everybody for watching and listening, and I hope to see you next time. Take care.